It's Talking Synths number 61, coming to you from beautiful downtown New Braunfels, Texas. Welcome everybody. This is our odd numbered episode, so that means this is for the general public, and we actually do this every week. And so if you're a member of the general public and not of our Patreon supporters, you only see this every other week. So if you go to patreon.com/synthwizards, you can sign up there for a nominal fee and get weekly talking synths.
Get on it.
And other stuff. We're from Syntaur.com. I'm Sam.
I'm Kenneth.
And Syntaur is the place to get all your keyboard parts and keyboards. Why not get a keyboard from us? Coming up on Christmas here. So
Oh yeah.
it is the gift-giving season.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a beautiful Oberheim OB8 right here. What could be nicer under the tree?
Santa.
And if you haven't seen our Synth Wizards episode number 11 that we came out with recently, check that out. We've got about over 60,000 views on it. We hope we'll get one more from you. And if you have any questions or comments on Talking Synths, just post them to the comments section below on YouTube. Or if you're on Spotify or iTunes or some other place you're seeing us, feel free to send an email to talkingsynths@syntaur.com. And speaking of talking synths, let's talk some synths about synthesizers and getting ready for live gigs. You and I have both done a lot of this. You more recently than I. I did it back in the dark ages when all we had was rocks. But no, I thought it was a cool comment or cool topic to talk about what you need to do to get ready to have a successful synthesizer gig.
Practice.
Well, I think we'll talk mostly about hardware stuff. We're assuming you've already done your practicing. But when Carlos suggested this topic, and it brought to my mind a gig I once did with a synth duo, and we had our big gig. We were opening for Spyrogyra in a pretty big club packed with a couple of thousand people, and all our sequences weren't there. So I wish I would have watched this episode before then, but there's so many things to do to get ready and to make sure you're not going to have a big fail on stage. So what are some things that come to mind for you?
For me, I like to always be prepared. I like to bring backups of everything. So as far as synthesizers and hardware and stuff like that, I like to bring extra keyboards. I like to bring a mixer in case the sound person isn't doing what they're supposed to do, or a lot of stuff that I use runs off batteries. I'll bring extra batteries. I'll bring a power supply just in case, and
like a power adapter in case
yeah,
the
power
batteries go out.
in case, and then I'll be wired in. But it's better than not having sound come from your synth.
Far better, yeah.
But I mean, I think a good piece of advice is kind of trial and error. Like, hopefully not too much error, but it is a workflow thing, and there's no experience like actually getting out there and playing a gig and seeing what you can do with your equipment. So maybe you won't be prepared for your first gig, but take the lessons you've learned from that and implement them to the next one. And as you go along, I think your setup and your preparedness will get better and better.
Yeah, I made a list of kind of spare stuff. I was thinking along the same lines. Batteries for your synths and any pedals, whatever. Spare pedal. Or spare pedals, because sustain pedals just a little switchy thing, and sometimes those go out, or expression pedal, those can go out, and it's easy enough to toss a spare in the bag. Power supplies, like you said, adapter, cables.
So bring an extension cable just in case. Bring a power strip just in case.
Yeah, bring an extra power cord just in case you think you got the one and you don't.
As far as like lines, like 1/4-inch cables, I like to always at least bring 2 or 3 extra ones just in case, and color coordinate them. so you know what goes to what. It makes setting up way easier. And in terms of setting up too, if you're running a big rig with multiple synthesizers, sequencers, drum machines, stuff like what I do, show up early. Get there like an hour early. Make sure you can go off to the side of the stage or something, set everything up, get everything ready to go. That way, loading up on stage is not a nightmare of plugging in 50 different cables and trying to figure out what's not working. And that really cuts down a lot on the stress of, okay, we're on in 5 minutes and everything's not working. What's the issue? So
that is stressful. A couple of other, well, I guess one other thing I had on my spares list, data.
Oh yeah.
Like that gig in front of Spirajara, I don't remember actually what happened, but the sequencer wouldn't work and we didn't have time to start tracking it down because we were on stage. But if it was the data had evaporated and it was on a floppy disk or whatever, you want to have a spare way to load that data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what you said about your cables and all brought up some reminders for me. My live rig used to be 2 keyboards. Usually, I think for the most part, is in Sonic VFX SDs or SD1s, and then a rack that had a couple of things in it, and then some pedals underneath. And what I would do for cables is everything the keyboards would run into the rack. And so I just kind of snaked everything together to where it all just wound up and went in the back of the rack. And then when it's time to set up, you just unwind those cables, and you had, I think, even power cables. Yeah, because I had a power strip in the rack. So it had 2 power cables for the keyboards, had MIDI in and out for each keyboard, and then it had stereo out audio from each keyboard. And I think that was it. And then I had a couple of sustain pedals and an expression pedal on the bottom. And I would snake those together too, to where they went right up the keyboard stand, and then the right lengths to go to the right stuff. And each of those ends of the cable had a number on it, a little sticker or something, and each spot they plugged in had that identical number on it.
Boop.
So yeah, it's real easy. It's real straightforward to set up. And usually when we'd get to a gig, we'd find all our equipment kind of piled there on the stage and we had to set it up. But we did a gig once in Japan, and I got there and they had my whole rig set up, plugged in, working and everything, just because I had those cables lettered and numbered, and someone looked at it and said, yeah, this makes sense, and I'm going to set it all up. So that was pretty impressive.
Nice.
that someone did that. But at the same time, if you make your rig that easy to set up, then it's going to be quicker and easier on you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just musicians. We get so much enjoyment out of playing live shows, and being stressed about your gear doesn't help with that sort of thing. So the easier you can make it on yourself, the more fun and the better show you'll put on. And I think a good way to look at it, and kind of what I've been doing recently, is I've got somebody building almost like how guitar players have pedal boards all routed out with their ins and outs and power supplies. I use a Boss 505 looper, a TR6S drum machine, a JX03 synth module, because that's another good thing. I've got a JX3P, and I don't really want to bring it to little bars and clubs to play shows. So it's a little bit of a compromise there, but those little Roland boutique models are pretty good, and it makes performing a lot easier. The sound, I don't think the people in the audience are really going to notice the difference, and I can use whatever I want with it, like various controllers and stuff like that. So that's a good thing. But as far as all of my gear and everything, I've got a pretty nice setup, and it's a little bit stressful still to set up at gigs. So I'm in the process of pretty much building a suitcase. We're going to get some Wurlitzer legs for it, screw onto it. But it's just going to have everything in the case, routed, ready to go, to where I got a plug in for power and to give my 4 line outs to the sound person, and I'll be able to play a gig. So it took me a while to kind of figure that out and find the right people to do it for me, but I think it's going to make my life and playing shows so much easier. So again, whatever you can do to like make performing more fun and less hassle-free, the better.
Okay, so here's one for you. I used to use the sequencer on one of the keyboards just to send program changes to everything. I don't know if this applies to what you're doing, but instead of, okay, here's the next song. Okay, what's the program on this one? Let me set the program on this one and change your stuff in the rack. And I also had a MIDI patch bay kind of thing that would layer things if they needed to be, or split, you know, if you play the bottom octave on this keyboard, it layers you with something in the rack. And so all that needed to be set for each song. So what I did was I used the sequencer in Sonic SD1, and all it would do was send a program change to the MIDI switcher thing. It was a Digital Music MX8, and then that would in turn send program changes, layering information and everything out to everything in the whole setup. So, and then in the end, I just had basically our song list as on the sequencer page. So
Boop.
Yeah. Next song, bloop, and you're all set to go.
Yeah, I mean, MIDI's been around since '83, I think, was when it kind of was, and it's like such a simple piece of technology, but there's so much that you can do with it. And I mean, I'm sure I'll be kind of going down a rabbit hole like that pretty soon with my stuff, because I'm still going, okay, drum patch 1, this song, cool, ready to go. But there's so much you can do with that sort of thing, and it all just takes time, really getting familiar with your gear, learning how to use it, and figuring out exactly what you want and how to accomplish that. And although it takes a lot of time, once you do it and you've got your setup and your rig exactly how you need it, then it's just like, I'm gonna play a show, here we go.
Yeah, that's the way it ought to be. And your brain is only on the creative end.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
Let's have fun, let's make music, rather than, oh, now why is this MIDI not getting to there? And,
see, that stuff's fun to me too, but not when I'm about to play a show.
yeah, that's living room
Yeah.
fun at home on when you don't have anything better to do fun. Yeah, I like figuring that stuff out too, and you can spend a lot of time in your living room getting your cables just right and getting your MIDI programmed and all that, and it is fun. I mean, geeks like us enjoy it, but the real payoff is when you get up on stage and it's time to play.
Easy.
Yeah. Easy equals being able to be creative. So,
Totally.
Yeah.
And back to what I was saying about using a little synth module rather than a 40-year-old vintage synthesizer in a small club. I use that Roland JX03 module, and most of the time I'm a avid keytar player, so I like to use keytars, and my keytar of choice and the one I've been touring with and playing with for the last few years is the Korg RK-100S, which originally there was the RK-100 back in the 80s, and it was just a controller. And I want to say 2016, 2017, they brought it back, made it a little bit smaller, and put the synth engine of a micro Korg in it. So it's got its own built-in sounds. And then they stopped making them, and it's been really hard to find them. And I think I went to NAMM in 2019, and they had like a dummy prototype. They weren't working, but it was just like a Mark II, and it looks
coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon. And finally, I think they were supposed to be out last year, but they're finally here, and it's the Mark II of the 100S, and they look completely different than they did at NAMM, but I'm super happy that we have them now. So
Yeah.
let me show it off a little bit.
Yeah, the Korg rep mentioned that, we've had this at NAMM for several years, but never actually had it available, and now it is, and we are one of the very few places in the country that have these right now.
Yes,
So,
they're very hard to come by. I've seen on the Facebook groups and stuff, people are freaking out trying to find them.
and
But
we just pulled this one out of the box that just
Yeah.
got here. So, yeah, it's really pretty. I love it kind of reminds me of the Nord stuff, the nice wood, but with a red finish.
yeah, when I saw them at NAMM, it looked similar, but I want to say there was almost like this part was like a cream colored, and they had like a two-tone, like there was a white and blue one, and there was like a cream and a red one. But I think these just come in black and in red now.
Yeah.
And it's very, very similar to the Mark 1, but I'd say it weighs about half as much, which is cool. The wood finish is more of a matte rather than like a gloss. And so I've had people all the time ask me like, oh, that's a cool keytar, like what's it made out of? I'm like, it's made out of wood. And they're like, what? It looks like it's made out of plastic. And I think they wanted to show off the wood a little more. So
Yeah, it does look nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Other than that, I think it's pretty close to the Mark 1. There might be different patches and stuff, but the layout and everything is pretty much the same. And the reason I like these so much is it's nice to like this feels like a real instrument. It doesn't feel like I'm playing a toy. It's nice to use it as a MIDI controller and control other units, but it's also really nice to just have onboard sounds. And you can do it simultaneously too. So you can play the sounds from this through the line out, and then also be controlling a different rig with your the MIDI control.
Nice.
And it just does them both at the same time, and you can fade this and out. But let's make a little noise with it. So my favorite feature, and nobody else has anything like this, and I feel like, you know, the keytar is kind of like keyboardists wanting to get out there with guitar players and move around, but string instruments have such a organic, like, sensitivity, like with how you can bend notes and stuff. And I feel like of all of the keytars, most have the little ribbon pitch bend thing, that sort of thing, but this one's got a big one. So this whole thing right here is a touch ribbon, and you can play it. I don't know how functional that is, but
And that's stepped. In other words, it goes through the keys. Yeah, so it's more like a glissando than a portamento.
yeah. And you can set it to different scales on your different patches and stuff like that. But the coolest thing is press a note and then hit this button up here, or this one, and it sustains. So this one's the pitch button, and when you sustain, you touch this little ribbon down here.
Nice.
Yeah, I use that all the time. I've used it on studio recordings, live, and every time people see it, they're like, whoa, that was so cool.
And when you did that, was it glissing or was it portamento? It sounded smooth then.
Yes, it's portamento there.
Okay.
And you can set it to like 5 octaves or something. Like you can
Wow.
set the range of the bend. So yeah. You can really get up there.
Yeah, nice.
And then the same thing with the filter button. And it's different per each patch. You can change what it is. You've got to plug it into the computer and do it that sort of way. But it's super cool, and it makes me feel a lot more expressive whenever I'm playing. And I love it. I'm a huge advocate of the Korg RK-100, so I'm glad there's a Mark II now.
Nice. And we have them in black and in red.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you need one, just give us a holler or send us an email, sales@syntaur.com,
Or if you need 2.
or if you need 4.
Yeah.
Never can have too many. Oh yeah, we said you're supposed to take a spare with you.
Yeah. I want to get one so I can have a spare.
Yeah. Oh, that brings up just a minor point. A while ago, I was saying I used 2 SD1s or VFXs or whatever. That came in real handy at a time when one, for whatever reason, would go out. And that's happened because we'd be playing on a generator at outdoor festivals and stuff. And a lot of times a bass player would hit a really low, loud note and the voltage goes and sometimes the keyboards would shut down, and if it's a really bad one, it would blow the power supply in the keyboard sometimes. So I've been on a gig where one of my 2 keyboards has gone dead, but the advantage of having 2 the same is like you sort of got a backup. It's like, you know, whatever you did on the second one, you can sort of do on the first one. And yeah, so adventures in keyboard land.
Yeah, I've had there was one gig we were playing in England, and one of the issues I've had with the original RK-100S is the power button is on the bottom. So when you put it in the case, it can easily get turned on and just run your batteries down. So I'll do a little battery flip, or I'll take one out whenever I'm done playing. But didn't do that at this particular gig. And we go up and we start the first song, and we get through the intro and the chorus, and then like right when the guitar solo happens, luckily, keytar dies. So I was able to take my keytar off and just jump off stage, go get some batteries, come back on
down to the Walgreens.
I did a little James Brown split, so everyone thought it was part of the show, and then I put some batteries in real quick, and then started playing again, and people loved it. So that's another good show tip: is just keep going. Don't ever stop the show. Like, maybe don't, like, if your keyboard dies, don't like throw it off stage or something like that. That'd be too much. But find a way to keep it going. Make it a part of the show.
I thought you were going to say the pro tip is to learn to do a James Brown split.
Yeah. I need to practice that. It's been a while.
I could do one of those if I wanted to. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
I would hurt myself, and probably those around me as well.
Yeah.
So.
You got to have like a 10-foot radius to do it in.
Can you show us?
Not right now, I can't. No. Well, tune into future episodes, and that might pop up. I'll practice, do some stretches.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Any other tips for preparing for a synth gig?
I mean, I guess the overall point we had was just have backups of everything.
Yeah.
So bring 2 of your entire setup. But no, I mean, I think, yeah, just being really familiar with your gear, spending some time setting it up in a way that really works for you, and kind of trial and error with the actual show itself. Just kind of learn to get in your own groove with it, and make it as easy as possible for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Well, we hope you guys and girls have some great gigs without big catastrophes. Hopefully we've headed some off at the pass and given you some helpful information. And again, if you have any comments, or if you want to tell us about your nightmare gigs, that's always kind of fun to hear. So put them in the comments or send us an email. And hopefully they're few, but until we see you again, we'll say modulator.